Bienvenidos and welcome. I'm sorry for the Spanish, but I was confused what was the language of this video. Uh, in today's episode, in today's section of Drops of Wisdom, that is episode 78, we are approaching the 100th episode in this section of Drops of Wisdom. We are going to discuss, talk, and reflect about how your habits can change your genes. And this is extremely important topic because we are just in the surface of how our environment can change everything that we are doing with our bodies, how really we can impact the way we shape our bodies and the way we are doing the things to really change the chemistry, change the messages, what is happening with the diet, what is happening with exercise, what is happening with sleep, what is happening with many of the stressed symptoms that we are surrounding our environment with. That's why it is extremely important that you stay until the end. This is a new way of presenting things, which was a little bit complicated and challenging today, but that's also related to the topic of changing habits and changing our genes. Because if we think of solutions, if we start looking for ways to improve the way we serve, the way we do what we are passionate about, which is my case, speaking about health and wellness in a holistic way, we can change our genes, we can change our neural pathways, we can change the chemistry and the language that we are speaking to our bodies. So we have listened, we have heard, or we have read about several studies that have shown that, for example, when mice are taught to fear a specific odor, their offspring and even the next generation can inherit this fear, and even 7 generations can inherit this fear. So that's why it's extremely important that you pay attention to the things that you are reading, to the things that you are listening, to the things that you are, to the things that you are doing, of course, your behaviors, and to the interaction that you are having with different kinds of people, and cleaning your social environment. All of those things we're going to discuss today, and we have to demonstrate that when we acquire a behavior, we can influence the gene expression related to the fear responses, and that can be passed down to future generations. So imagine if you change the way you approach your life. Imagine the way that you become more curious about what is surrounding you because you research more of what people are saying to you, and you discover your own truth because no one has a single truth. We all need to be more responsible of what we believe in. So let's begin with all the changes that we can do for our habits and how these changes are going to impact our genes. First, of course, is your lifestyle that encompasses a lot of things. Every choice we make, from diet to sleep to sedentarism or exercise, to what you listen, to what you read, to who are you talking to, and the kind of people that is surrounding you, are influencing your biological systems at the cellular level. Thanks to what? Thanks to epigenetics. And what is this? Your epigenetics is the most amazing discovery in this in the 1940s, more or less. And this discovery will allow you to change the expression of your genes. It is not changing your DNA. It is not changing the information per se. Your hard drive is not being impacted. What is impacted is the way it is going to be read, the way it is going to be expressed or exposed to the reading um, process. And this exposure of regions that shouldn't be read is what transcribes and then translates and then expresses into a defective protein. All of these steps of first copying the information, if you copy wrong information, of course that the transcription of this information is going to be wrong. If the transcription is wrong, the translation will be even worse. And those and many layers in there are changing because of the messaging of the environment that you are creating. So, have you ever read a poor translation of something? Or have you ever listened to someone that is sort of a politician that doesn't know how to speak and you don't even understand what they are saying? Well, that's a defective protein in your biology. That's how a defective protein is perceived in your body. And the accumulation of these defective proteins is what generates a disease. We can impact, as we said, many generations with these habits that are, of course, very unconscious many times. So, what are we doing with this information? Since we were in utero, since we were in this process of gestation, we are receiving these kind of messages. And this is also the impact of your nutrition, of the way you exercise or you are sedentary, of the way you are being stressed when you are creating life inside of you as women. You have a lot of responsibility in this process because this is the process where many humans receive a lot of toxic information, and we can impact this by creating more conscious young people, in particular women, that really know the ability that they have to generate a different generation and future generations that are much healthier, stronger, and more resilient. This doesn't mean, and be careful with the interpretation of this, that you are also destined to express many of the things that you could develop due to this environment. This just means that you can have some labels in your genes to speak softly. These labels in your genes can be methylation groups, acetylation groups, and the histone protection. What are the histones? The histones are like the wrapping of your genes, the protection that your genes have to so that your information can be read or not. So all of this protection, all of these layers, all of this wrapping of your gifts that are your genes can be impacted by the chemical environment that you are having. So that's where the habits and the environment start impacting. When we have uh, all of the information from the environment and when we have toxicity in our environment, this comes since the discoveries of Charles Darwin. Imagine, he was so attuned to observe nature, to observe how species were evolving, how they were behaving, that he discovered and highlighted the role of the routines, of the habits, of the environment that was shaping the homeostasis or the balance, and how that balance and how that environment could shape same species into a more into a stronger species or into a weaker species depending on the environment And that change and that shaping and those changes that happen throughout hundreds of years is the evolutionary process. And as we are seeing now, the generations that we are seeing today are not the same. Sometimes they are not resilient as the past generations were, and sometimes they are expressing more diseases because of the environment that we are having today. And whose responsibility is that? It's just yours. You are not going to impact any other person, any other businessman that is taking decisions, but you can impact what you do with your body. You can impact what you do with your life. You can impact what you do with the things that you decide that are going to be your rituals. All of those things, you can have an impact. And what is, in more detail, the epigenetic process? Well, it is all of this that we are seeing in this slide. We are seeing how our environment, the food, the sleep, the sedentary process, the social environment is shaping. This arrow is reversible. So that means that if you have for in your 20s a very poor lifestyle, you can change it now. It's never, never late to change the things that you can do with your body. And your body is so compassionate, so wise that it will apply those changes almost immediately. So the more you start changing your routines, the more you start changing your rituals, the more you are going to see changes in what is going to be translated into the epigenetic world. And instead of accumulating labels, instead of accumulating things that will damage your body and will create cardiovascular diseases or heart diseases, diabetes, certain types of cancer, metabolic syndrome, rare diseases, instead of changing all of those things to generate a chronic state of disease, you can generate a different mindset and start impacting the way your genes are going to be expressed. You can start impacting the quality of the proteins that you are going to generate. That is the influence that your habit has. So regular actions or your everyday routines can impact your epigenetic changes, potentially influencing gene expression. And we know that it's not so potentially. It is something that is going to happen if you repeat your behaviors and you really stick to the healthier habits in your body and in future generations. How many generations? 7 generations. Is it enough for you to impact 7 generations? For me, it's more than enough. So it is a lot of impact that you can have. Integrating healthy habits is not overwhelming yourself and saying that you have to change everything from today for tomorrow. You don't have to do it like that. You don't have to do it cold turkey, as the expression says. You have to do it by small bites of information, small rituals that you start doing. And over the time, over the next months that we are still missing from this 2024, you can really have an impact in the way you look and in the way your inside is changing. So, what is the connection of the of Darwin's ideas into how we can think about that? Well, if many animals, if many species evolve and change to survive, to not be extinct, and to be still here today on this earth, we can certainly change how human beings are going to be. without the need of artificial things, without the need of uh, re um, having those resources of in artificial intelligence, without having those things implanted in your brain, without changing things in terms of becoming more sort of a hybrid in terms of human and robot, let's say. You can just change the way you are behaving. You can just change the way you are listening or reading or relating to certain people. So, how is stress impacting your life? Stress releases, we know, cortisol and adrenaline. Those hormones are perfectly good when you need to react quickly, when you need to protect yourself. That's what they are made for. But chronically, they are going to affect your gene function. They are going to potentially contribute to the development of diseases, as we showed in the image of the reversible impact of your lifestyle and into the expression of your genes. So we have to be more aware of when are we stressed? What are the signals? What are the things that are happening when you are being more distracted, when you are tired of doing certain type of work? You can just take a small break of 5 or 10 minutes, close your eyes, relax, listen to a meditation, listen to nature, listen to silence, listen to your own breathing, and start connecting with your own wisdom. And your body will give you this peace. And the stress is going to go down, and these hormones are going to be regulated, and you are going to be in a much better um, stamina, in a much better rhythm to continue your work and to withstand a little bit more. And that doesn't mean that being busy is healthy. Being busy is not being productive. Let's also talk about that, because being busy is what creates this stress. We are going to have a specific episode where I'm going to talk about discipline and how it gives us freedom. So, coming back to this epigenetic environment, what is happening with inflammation, with the environment of these inflammatory molecules that can be cytokines, that can be many of these neurotransmitters that are creating a threshold that is a lot higher than the one that you had. For example, let's say dopamine, that these social platforms are hooking your attention to continue engaging yourself in those things and not doing anything productive and wasting your time. All of these things are creating inflammatory effects, and they are impacting your physical health, your metabolism, and they are impacting your mental health. That's why we see nowadays more people that are distracted, that they don't have attention, that they are driving like they are mindless, and a lot of people that don't have the opportunity to reflect. And I say opportunity to reflect because we all have time. We all have the same amount of time. It is different how we use the time, but if we are in this cycle of toxicity, in this hamster wheel, in this victim or busy mindset, we are not doing anything productive with our time and we are impacting our health. Finally, what is the balance that we can obtain, and what are some examples of how we are impacting also our epigenetics? As you can see here in this slide also, I am showing you an example of nutrition because it is the easiest to explain, but it happens. This happens when you are sedentary. This happens when you are disrupting your sleep. This happens when you are uh, engaging with toxic people. This happens when you are also being addicted to social platforms and wasting your time. And this happens when you watch news. So it's in particular, I'm going to talk about nutrition, but this happens with all of the things that I mentioned. So what is happening with this nutrition example? Well, as you can see here, our toxic plastic diet is creating an impact. And that's why we see in these new generations the impact in their health, because they are consuming all of these products that have a lot of chemical substances. And I will give you a quick tip to detect what is a real food and what is a food that is toxic for your body. If it has more than two or three things that you can't understand, that the language of the names of the ingredients is technical, that's just trash. That's just food that you shouldn't consume. The more organic, the more natural, the more real food that you consume, the better you are going to be. And that is going to be reflected in the expression of your phenotype. What is your phenotype? How you look in shape, how your body looks. And that's sometimes that is the first thing that you are going to notice when something is wrong, when some type of food is doing harm to your body. So when we don't pay attention to those things, we are creating a toxic environment and we are creating epigenetic alterations. We are creating this labeling of our DNA. We are creating this acetylation of the wrapping of our DNA, and we are creating these transgenerational effects. We are driving or leading ourselves to creating generations that are going to be weaker, that are going to be prone to develop diseases, chronic diseases earlier, much earlier, as we are seeing now. And that is going to be expressed, of course, in chronic toxicity, that is any of the diseases that you can name that are in the very high statistics nowadays. Increased risk of metabolic disorders, cardiovascular health, of course, poor cardiovascular health, of course, diabetes type 2, cancer, certain types of cancer, growth abnormalities, of course, mental diseases, and all of these examples that we are having with mental lack of mental resilience, which is translated into anxiety and depression. All of this is being caused simply by choosing a poor diet, by choosing the plastic toxic food. When we choose the real food, when we choose the food that comes from earth, that is not manipulated by almost any company, or the ingredients that the company is using are natural ingredients, then we have a much better prognosis. We have a much leaner body. We look healthier, but we are inside healthier. The environment that we are creating for our cells is an environment that they are thriving. Imagine yourself, and I think that many of you have been in those shoes, when you were in a toxic environment, in any job that you have had throughout your life, you could appreciate what it was to be in a toxic environment where everyone is speaking uh, about each other in their backs and being hypocritical and being and lying and just stepping over everyone just to come across and as the best performance or the highest performer. So all of that toxic environment, how did you feel? I'm sure, and I can bet any quantity of money, that you were really, really first anxious, depressed, stuck, not motivated, of course, and you start becoming this kind of person that now speaks, now complains, now is lying, now is hypocritical, and suddenly, if you are lucky, if you are aware, if you are more conscious, you are going to wake up and you are going to leave that toxic environment. Well, that's what we are creating when we choose the toxic option. When we are creating the healthier option is when we quit, we move from the environment, and we create a thriving scenario where our body is a lot healthier and we have a, a reduced risk of developing any of the diseases that I was uh, naming or listing. So is it difficult to do these things? No. Many or all of them are free. If we are going to consume food, well, we better choose the healthier food. If we are going to do something for our body, we better choose exercise. We better choose some physical activity. It doesn't have to be hours in the gym. It just has to be 20, 30 minutes every other day during the week with 3 or 4 days in a 7 day week. We are doing a great impact for our health and for our brain. I'm going to speak in the future, of course, about this topic of exercise and mental health and how we are being oblivious of many of the effects that exercise has. So, this is the balance that we can maintain. It's just avoiding bad habits. It's just learning to manage the stress, learning to pay attention when you are stressed and taking short breaks to rest your eyes, to rest a little bit your brain from stimuli, to foster positive social connections and to start cleaning your social environment as well. This will create harmony. This will create homeostasis. This will create balance in your body, inside of your brain, and in what you are doing around you. So, this is the expression of an healthy epigenetic environment by making conscious choices today. Today, you can decide that tomorrow you are going to wake up and walk 5 minutes. That's it. That's one change that you are going to do tomorrow. Tomorrow, you are going to change one simple thing. Instead of consuming one bottle of soda, you are going to consume half of the bottle of soda. That's one change. And you keep adding small changes through the weeks. Nobody is rushing you. You can do it eventually in a constant discipline way that I'm going to speak about that also. And you're going to create a healthier environment. You're going to see the changes by the time that you pass 2 or 3 weeks implementing these rituals. And by doing that, you will have much better mood. You will sleep really well, and you will have a much better motivation to create communities that are healthier. So we can positively impact our well-being and the well-being of future generations. And by doing this, we can create change in everyone around us. So if we just commit to do what we are supposed to do, we are going to impact our epigenetic landscape, and we are going to impact the way society is behaving by doing these simple changes, because an individual that is motivated, that is healthy, that has more consciousness of the things that is reading, listening, or expressing, is going to create a much healthier politic environment, a much healthier way that they are going to decide in their own business, and a more responsible way of serving people and creating real change in your life. So I hope that this reflection about habits, about how can they impact your genes, and about all of these reflections that we made, even in the past, with Darwin's ideas, can really inspire you to help me and spread this information that I share here, because that's my mission. My mission is sharing these wellness practices, sharing this holistic journey that I also do for myself, and that is challenging every day, also in certain ways and in certain aspects, and that I am also not perfect, and that I also sometimes fail, and don't punish myself. I just keep on doing the work and keep on adding the things that are going to help me be much better tomorrow. Thank you very much for listening, for paying attention. If you like this episode, if you like this reflection, of course, you know what to do. Support me in any way possible, even with some reaction, comments, questions, and sharing, of course, this information. Thank you. Have a wonderful afternoon, and we will listen to each other next week. Bye.